Hey y'all, welcome to another new episode of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast with your girl Stephanie Hardy. So of course in this final episode from International Podcast Week, I will be talking with Battle Club Pro principal owner and co-owner of the Fallout Shelter in New York, Joakim Morales. We will get into his happiness over Battle Club Pro's 6th anniversary, and we also have a very heartfelt conversation about safe spaces in wrestling, equality in wrestling, and also overcoming loss. So I hope you enjoy this beautiful conversation that we had. And yeah, there were a lot of technical difficulties with it, but in the meantime, I still hope that you enjoy this interview that we had. This is the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. And I'm so excited because he is the principal owner of Battle Club Pro, a wrestling promotion out of New York who I'm so happy to have started following and worked for at one point this year, and also the co-owner of the Fallout Shelter in New York. He is Joakim Morales. How are you, Joakim?
I'm great, Queen. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, it's Thursday, just trying to chill out and prepare for Friday and be as restful as I can be. So it's going good.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to start by asking you the question that I ask all of my guests. And that's, when did you fall in love with wrestling?
As early as I could remember, I just always loved it. From the earliest age, it was right up there with like Ninja Turtles and Thundercats and Power Rangers, all the kids, all the things young kids watch. Just as far back as I can remember, wrestling's always been there.
Okay, so basically, you were just a fan of a lot of different things, and wrestling was just one of them.
Yep.
It's so funny. You mentioned Thundercats and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I have like two men in my life who love both of those things so much, and also another man in my life who loves Power Rangers too. So it's just kind of like a mixture of all those things together, and it's just like all of it.
Good taste.
Yes, all of it with wrestling is just like the icing on the cake right there. So, who is your favorite Ninja Turtle?
Oh God, see, this is a great question. These are the hard-hitting questions. I love them all because obviously they're all unique in their own way. But I don't know what it is, but it's always been Michelangelo for me. I don't know if it's the orange. Orange is one of my favorite colors. He's the fun one, like where Raphael breaks the rules because he's a badass. Mikey breaks the rules because he's a goofball. So it's like that like happy medium has always been my and I think I've always thought the nunchucks were like so great as a weapon. So
yeah, nunchucks are fun. Like, I've actually never, done it before, but they look fun though. So if I were to ever learn how to do a weapon, it would probably be that and maybe a sword.
Nice.
Yeah, so I totally get it. Who's your favorite Power Ranger?
Oh, person or color? Because it's two different things.
I mean, person and color. I mean, it both.
Everyone always loves Tommy. Tommy's the man. I don't know what about it was. I don't know what it was about it, but when Jason came back and he became the Gold Ranger, I love that. And just the aesthetic. I was like, yeah, finally somebody besides Tommy gets a shield and a cool weapon.
Yes.
So I think most people's favorite is the Green Ranger, and it's hard to argue against it. But there's some that I just love the Gold Ranger. I don't know why. And then when Jason became the Gold Ranger, it was like, oh, that's great. The look is just awesome. I'll say, to be different, I'll say Gold Ranger. Jason version Gold Ranger.
Okay. And who's your favorite Thundercat?
Oh man, it's the guy. It's the guy. It's got to be. Like, who else could it be? It has to be. But how could I be different? I don't know. Yeah, it's everyone's favorite. I want to be different. It's got to be Lionel. Like, it has to be, right? Like, it just, they're all great. But yeah, no, Lionel's he's got the line. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Let's go with Lionel.
Yeah, it's funny that you brought him up because just I believe what was last week? No, 2 weeks ago, I saw Thundercat, like the singer and the bass guitarist, in concert. And literally he had like the Thundercat emblem tattooed on his hand. And then he also has like this jumpsuit that kind of reminds you of Bruce Lee, that's yellow and black. And then he has his version of the Thundercat emblem on the front of it. So it's a whole vibe. So I totally get it. I totally get loving all those things, and then also loving wrestling too. Like, it's just, I feel like all of them are very similar to each other in the sense that they all fight for something. They fight against somebody, and something or someone has to be conquered. It's all pretty much the same thing, except it's all different because it's one's animation, the other one's like real life. So yeah, it's cool. I like it. So what exactly helped what helped you stay a wrestling fan once you started?
It's one of the few things that has always been there that hasn't really had a heartbreaking kind of moment. You know, like for sports fans, you know, if your team is good enough to get to the championship, but then they don't win, that's like heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. So you come back because, you know, you want to see them be victorious. But it's like with wrestling, there's a storytelling arc in all of wrestling that is just like, it's always going on. So you never really truly have that heartbreak unless you're like absolutely over the moon for like one particular talent or team. Which I find most wrestling fans aren't. Most wrestling fans, they have, you know, an eclectic roster of who they genuinely cheer for. And it's always different. So like, there's never been that like gut-wrenching, heartbreaking moment that made me go, oh, I can't do this anymore. There's been moments that have been like, oh man, this is rough, or the product isn't what I would like it to be. But there's never been something so soul-crushing that I never, you know, it never made me stop coming back to it. It was always there. It was always there. No matter what was going on in my life, there was always something I could watch wrestling related that would uplift me.
Yeah, I get it. Like, who were some of like the people that you were watching during the time in which you started watching it? Like, who was like a who's who back like at that point?
I mean, Macho Man, Undertaker, Sting, but like, you know, all the classic WWE, WWF guys. I had a few AWA tapes, so I had like some early Road Warriors, not early, but like mid-career Gagne, him and his son. Saw a few Bockwinkel matches, you know, just 80s wrestling in general. I would say probably early Bret Hart, early Owen Hart, you know, Macho Man, or the guys I kind of like really like, oh, I love these guys. Yeah, just, you know, most common answers, but like for like the odd job, the screwball kind of thing, like I would hate on someone like Lex Luger or something, because he just comes off as the guy who got like gifted everything, and even at a young age, I'd like cheer for like Lou Big Borga, because, you know, he was the heel from Helsinki, you know, like Yokozuna. I love like the heels. I always felt like in wrestling, it could be the most vague reason that they are a heel, but you can still find a way to connect to them. Mm-hmm. So like Macho King was always so great to me because, you know, he was the man.
Yeah, and he had Sensational Sherry too.
There you go. That's all you need. You fly sister with you, then you can beat the world.
Yes, Queen Sherry was everything. And in person, I just love her because she's also from Birmingham. Like, we're both born in the same city, so I just love her. Like, she's a person I wish I could interview. Like, oh my God, I wish I could have interviewed her at some point because that would have been lit. Oh my God. that would have been like one of the greatest interviews of my life, but it's okay. She's in a better place. So
right. Well, now, I mean, now that you're doing your thing, who would be a dream interview, like a dream level interview?
At this point, it's so hard to say. I feel like I talked to so many people. I think at this point, it would probably, realistically, at this point, it would probably be maybe Deanna Parazzo.
Okay.
And Soraya at this point too, because
okay.
I love her, and I've always loved her since 2012. And it's just, if I could talk to her and hear like all of her stories, like that would be really lit. Yes, and then on top of that, I would love to interview Mercedes Varnado Sasha Banks, but I just don't know how that's gonna work. Realistically, because it's just, she's a wanted woman everywhere, and then I don't know if she's still with WWE or not, so it's just kind of like, if I interviewed her, then I would basically I would have to stop for like maybe 3 weeks and just cry, and yes, and just bask in that, and then just sit down for a minute and then start back again. But those are the people I would love to have the most, and they're all women, so that would be great. So as you matriculated, as a wrestling fan, in your life, like, was there ever a point where you ever thought about, leading your own wrestling career, or, being at the point where you're at now?
So it never crossed my, it's wild. And I don't think I've like publicly said it, but like I had gone to one independent wrestling show before I was an adult. It was only one. I was 12 years old. It was like 2 or 3 blocks from where I lived. And then it was just basically mainstream wrestling, ECW, WCW, WWF, a little bit of Japan here and there, ROH, TNA, it was whatever was like accessibly on TV is what I would watch. I really didn't get into anything independent until Punk started becoming like a big deal in the E, and it was just like I saw his stuff in Impact, and from Impact I like just fell in love with him. But then when he had came, when he did the ECW version of the WWE version of ECW, I started kind of going back and watching and keeping a bit of an eye on the indies, and then those bigger names like Devitt, Omega, and like I started seeing those names, Cabana, like people who were really popular on the indies. But I didn't get back to doing a indie show until I was well into my 30s. And then at that point, it was just like, whoa, this is a whole new thing. And then, like here we are from there. Like, did it ever cross my mind? No. But I have a great friend out in Las Vegas. I actually went and saw WrestleMania with her when they were in California. And I remember because we decided to I'd meet her in Vegas and we'd have like a bit of a road trip. And then once we got to San Jose to see WrestleMania and come back, I remember telling her, I'm not going to wrestle, but I know I'm going to be in the business some way, shape, or form. When was that WrestleMania? That was a full year? 31 was 2015, right?
I think so.
Yeah, where Seth cashed in. I want to say it's 2015.
Yeah, I think so.
Like a full-on year before Battle Club ever even was publicly announced it was a thing. I had said that, and it's wild how people always, it seems to be the online craze to manifest things. It's just like she reminded me, you said this, and look where you are now. And it blows my mind that absolutely, I had said it a full year before Battle Club was even publicly advertised. And I'm here now doing what I do.
Wow. See, that's how funny it happens. It's just sometimes it's your life sort of coalesces, and then you just sort of do your own thing for a while. But then it's just like, that deep down inside you love something, but you just don't. But sometimes a part of you feels like, oh, well, I don't know, maybe not. You just never know,
Right.
because you just be trying to survive and do what you can, right? And then all of a sudden, once you get off in it, you're just like, whoa, okay, this could be a thing. And it seems like you manifested it, and you really believe in it, and that's really cool, because the power, like, the tongue is powerful. So you can say something, whether it be positive or negative, and somehow or another it winds
Right.
up becoming
Exactly.
a thing. So it's cool that happened for you in that way, and and on your way to WrestleMania of all places,
Right.
because that has magic attached to it. I don't care what anybody says.
It does. It does.
It's
It does.
magical. So I
It
feel
is.
like that magic met you, and it said, okay, bet, and just
Yeah.
definitely. So, since you said that, and you felt like you had a place, even though you weren't exactly sure how you were going to be in the business, you felt like you had a place. Like, when did you decide to create what's known as Battle Club Pro now? And basically, what was the inspiration behind you continuing going forward with it?
So, Battle Club was actually founded by Carlos Aristi. He's the original owner, the founder, first inductee into the Hall of Fame, for our Hall of Fame. He had founded it in I want to say March of 2016. He had come up with the idea behind it, and I think in April he had reached out to me, because we were Facebook friends, in a Facebook group. Literally, all we ever did was argue about wrestling. So when he proposed to me, he's like, "Yo, I'd like for you to be my lead commentator." It just, like, I say yes, because just about any opportunity, you say yes to, because if you do it and fail, at least you have the experience now.
Right.
If you don't do it at all, then you gain nothing. So I said yes, but in the back of my head, I'm like, this is probably a joke. It's probably a rig trying to mess with me. And then, like, I started seeing match announcements. I'm like, oh, this is for real. So I had hit him up, and I'm like, hey, I don't want to do just commentary. I'd like to be your partner. Like, what's it going to take for that to get to where where I want to go? And slowly but surely, with every passing show, I got more and more responsibilities. He let me in more and more with the duties. And July of 2018, he said, I'm having another baby. I'm handing this off to you. It's yours now. It was just like, what do you mean? And he just, he dropped that on me, like, right before he went through the curtain to address the crowd. And I'm in the, I tell all the time, like, I'm in the back getting ready to do commentary with Brian Pillman Jr. He puts his hand on my shoulder. He's like, looks like you're in charge, kid. I'm just like, what just happened? But yeah, that's how I ended up in control of Battle Club. And since then, I've given part ownership to Ray Red, one of my best friends for over 20 years. Someone who's always had my back, always been supportive. I could always count on him for everything. Trust him with my life. And obviously Janelle, last year, officially giving us the yes for being part of the ownership team. And she's taken everything she does well and added that to the repertoire of Battle Club's ownership team. But yeah, it's just, it's one of those crazy things. Just a few years earlier, 3 or 4 years earlier, I'm throwing it out there. I'm going to be in the business somehow. And now it's like, oh, I'm in control of a promotion that runs out of New York, New Jersey. What, and since being in control, I Carlo's mission was to bring great wrestling to the Bronx. We did 4 shows in the Bronx, 3 shows at our original location, another show at a different spot. So he felt like he, fulfilled his mission. That's all he wanted to do, was bring really good wrestling to the Bronx. And when he handed it over to me, my goal going forward was to give a platform to the people, or to people that look like people I grew up with, that I was friends with, that I admired growing up. Women of color, like they were always my best professors, or teachers. The athletes who didn't get the the look that they might have gotten if they were in a better school or a better area. So like I wanted to take Battle Club and make it a point that this is a place for people of color to flourish, for men and women of color, specifically like Hispanic and Black women to thrive. It's an inclusive place where we're accepting of everyone, regardless of your sexual orientation or however you identify. But we want you to thrive here, and that's been the goal, is to thrive here. And since being in control and making that my mission statement, that now includes making the trainees at Fallout the future of Battle Club, the stars of Battle Club. So having people like Ashley Vox and Anthony Bowens hold gold in Battle Club, being open about their orientation, having Edith Surreal compete multiple times, Jordan Blade, like just everything I wanted, I was able to accomplish. And now the next step is to make everyone who's training at Fallout a star at Battle Club, and eventually a star on the Independents, and then if everything goes well, a star on mainstream wrestling.
So basically, this story just sounds like you worked your way up. You worked your way and you continued to stay with it. And then Carlos challenged you by leaving. He challenged you and said, "Here is my baby, take care of it." And
right.
You're just like,
huh?
You're just like, huh? What?
Yeah, it really was. It's just like, what the hell just happened? Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. But yeah, he really did, and I still do it sporadically. I'll just hit him up and I'll say thank you, and I'm real with him. Thank you for the headache. Thank you for the stress. But I'm living a dream that I never knew it was in there, but I never really knew how to get it out there. He's the one that opened that door for me. So I thank him as much as possible. And yeah, I'm just, as crazy as show days are, as stressful as things can be, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I do love it. I love being able to create my vision of wrestling, and then being able to enable people to put their stamp on the show, their piece of art on the show, on the blank canvas that we're putting together for that show, for that event, for that day. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to be creative and then give platforms and outlets for other people to do so.
Yeah, like I can tell, like even from with you explaining what your mission statement is and the platform that you want to give people of color and people of different sexual orientations. It's like every time I've been to a Battle Club event, even when I worked one, it's like I saw everyone and everyone was just so happy, and there was just such a good atmosphere about it where everyone's clearly excited about what they're doing. And even if they're just working or putting stuff up like the ring and all of the above, and helping putting seats away and technology here, technology there, and all of the above, and even if you need some help trying to get some places, like everyone is just so excited to be there. And I just love the vibe of it and just how everyone just feels just so happy to be a part of it in some small way or even in a big way. And it's clear it's been fostered it starts in the leadership and then it trickles down. So I love that is where you're starting, and that's how you started it, and now it's growing into this beautiful thing, and I love it. Like it's really great. But you mentioned the Fallout Shelter, like was that a thing by itself, but like, or was it always connected to Battle Club Pro?
Give me 1 second. Be right back.
Okay. Okay. Doing a commercial break. Commercial break.
Sorry.
It's okay.
They're over there like talking about all kinds of things, and it kind of drowning you out. So I had to shut that door.
It's okay.
So once in control, again, years before, simply saying something and it comes to fruition. I was moving the ring in a truck with Carlos. We were doing a show. Where was the show? It might have been Jersey. Yeah, it might have been New Jersey. The first time we did a show in New Jersey in 2017, and we were conversing about how we wanted to do a show out of state other than Jersey because Jersey's right there, and how, like, personally, I want to change the business for better, and like opening a wrestling school would be a great way to do it. That conversation was had in 2017. 4 years later, Fallout Shelter opens up. It's always been connected to Battle Club. It's the idea is for it to be a school that's a feeder system. So they have had 3 shows this year, predominantly focused on the students, and it's to build them up to be, the focal points of Battle Club Pro. I try to, with my partners and stuff, liken it to like, well, NXT is its own thing, but it's still a WWE product. So right. The Fallout Shelter is its own thing. When we do Seek Shelters, they are Fallout focused, but they're still products of Battle Club Pro. So, I try to do that comparison. It's like, oh, WWE, NXT. Like, even when you look at the NXT title, it has the WWE logo on it. So it's like, yeah, Fallout's its own thing, but it's still a product of Battle Club. So yeah, it's always been connected. It's always been the thing. Like, and I also in 2019, I remember before we did the All Interdender show or the first franchise title show. It was one of those 2 first outdoor shows we did. I was talking to somebody and I brought up like I really would like to open up a school and start to change the game from inside. And 2 years later, Fallout opens up. It's one of those situations like everyone has a friend whose dad wasn't around when they grew up. So their mission is to be the best parent possible because they had an absent parent. So for me, it's like wrestling has had such a bad reputation for so long. And during the pandemic and the lockdown, you got to see how ugly it really was with the speaking out movement. Mm-hmm. And it's like, this needs to change. It needs to change for the future. It needs to change for the present. It needs to change for fans, for sponsors, for promoters, for workers. But most importantly, selfishly, it needs to change for me. I don't want to be attached to something that has such a stain on its history. Like, I love this business. It needs to be better going forward. And the best way to do that, and the only way to do anything when it comes to changing it, is to be in it. So Fallout Shelter opened up, and that's been the goal ever since.
Yeah, that is just so good. I just feel like the more you speak about wanting to change everything from the inside, it just makes me feel so good inside. Like, it's just like, yes, okay, because it's just like with everything with what happened during the pandemic and even afterward, it's just like, I was telling Shay yesterday, like, there can be so many dark parts to wrestling, and there could be so many dark corners of it, to the points where if you only focus on the sad or dark parts, it's enough to make you depressed. Right. It's enough to make you want to just be like, what's the point? But right. At the same right. time, when you have people like you that are trying to make it, safe for everyone, and then you have people like Shay, who is a content creator for Unpopular Review, and then you also have people like Iridian, who is also a content creator and a radio producer, who are trying to talk about all the stuff that they like about wrestling in a positive way, including myself. It's just, it starts to, even though the change can be slow at times, it's still very much it's a process that's definitely worth it, because you just never know who you're reaching or who you're blessing with that. So I'm so glad, that you have been pushing. It seems like you're leading with love. And
that's the thing.
And that is a very beautiful thing, because sometimes people have a tendency to go into things that they're really passionate about, and they sort of lead with just passion only and fire only.
Right.
And it's not coming from like a pure place, and they sort of get lost in the sauce. But then you have to realize that it starts from a place of love first. And when you operate out of love, it tends to, matriculate, and it becomes a positive thing. So I'm just so glad that that's your mission, and that's what you're doing, even with the Fallout Shelter and with Battle Club Pro as well. So what were some of the obstacles that you faced during the pandemic, since you brought that up? Because I can't imagine, I've heard so many stories from wrestlers who had to learn how to, navigate their careers and sort of get better even while there wasn't anything going on. So how did you, make that work?
So it's during the lockdown, literally, I'll never forget it. It's a bit of a painful memory, but like, so in New York, when they had declared the state of emergency, for some weird reason, I work in a Department of Education high school. Mm-hmm. They decided to keep us working for the full week, which was super odd because we had spring break. I believe it was spring break. So not only was like there was a state of emergency and they were telling people not to go outside the house. You go outside the house, whatever's gonna happen. But it's like we're supposed to be on vacation and you're making us work, but there are no students. It was so weird. We didn't really do anything. So the Department of Education ended up going into quarantine lockdown, I think like a week and a half after everyone else did. And so that first Monday, just home, not doing anything. And unfortunately, on the Tuesday of that week that we were locked down, I had lost my grandmother. Oh. And it destroyed me. It's still real hard to talk about, but like, it's one of those really weird coincidences where like I was forced to take a break and it was okay because like the world was in danger. I had just lost the most important person in my life. So taking that break was good. I honestly think if lockdown didn't happen and I still did lose my grandmother, it would have been damn near impossible for me to run Battle Club correctly. I don't know if I would have been able to do it from a place of love. I would have just been doing it to try to keep my mind off of it instead of trying to really deal with what was going on in my real life and in the real world at the time. Because I remember I also, the year prior for that first WCW show we did in 2019, that January, I lost my grandfather, or the person that I recognize as my grandfather because he was with my grandmother. He was married to her. My biological grandfather, that's a whole different story. But I had lost him. And even 3 months after doing, 3 months after losing him, it was just like thinking about it being so hard and worrying. And, I was blessed to be able to do the first show in New York when WrestleMania was in town. So the turnout was great and it just it woke me up. But it was awful time for a lot of people, but being forced to not do anything to deal with what was going on in my real life was beneficial to me in that spot. I wasn't actively trying to create content. I wasn't trying to repost old content. I stood away from it entirely. And once the world slowly started opening up, New Jersey opened up way quicker than New York did. So that's why we were able to do that May the Franchise Reign show in 2021. So that was really cool. On top of everything you have to worry about when you're running a show, we had to provide our own air purifiers. We provided masks. There was this whole new set of things you had to worry about. And then we did the Jobber Slam that July. So 2 months later, and it was in New York, but we still had to provide, masks, air purifiers, the whole nine. We had to, have all these safety precautions. What I did love about independent wrestling during that lockdown period was you got to see a lot of people, like you said, get creative to continue to keep their name out there. And it was refreshing to see that there were people who recognized, hey, I could do this to better my brand and not have to bump. And that's always good. Like if you could have a different outlet to do something to continue to put yourself over without having to put your body at risk, that's amazing. So we started seeing more twitching, more, podcasting, like all these little things. It's like this kind of outside world of content, but all, gravitationally pulled towards the planet that is wrestling. So that was great because it also sparked my creativity watching that. I was like, oh, what can we do to go forward from them? So, just to circle back to your question, I really didn't face any difficulties because I was in a position in my personal life that it wasn't the priority. It wasn't the priority.
Yeah, I understand that completely. And I definitely empathize with you because that is something that I've gone through twice in my life before all of this happened. Like, I lost my maternal grandmother when I was 10 and my paternal grandmother when I was 25. And it was really rough because I was close to the both of them. It's like anytime my parents didn't, had to work, I was always with my grandmothers and we were always really close. So it's just like losing them was not like the easiest thing at all, especially because it's just like that love you feel is just really, really grounding and it's beautiful and you have that wisdom, right? But yeah, and I know that is hard, and I'm, and I deeply empathize with anybody that's gone through that. But I am glad that you were able to deal with that in a healthy way, because there are so many times where people lose people and they don't necessarily like put it anywhere that's healthy. They put it everywhere that's just all over the place, or they kind of just take it too far and they don't deal with it as well as they could. So I am glad that you were able to slow down and really just process it and still, find ways to slowly move forward on your own pace. Because it could be so destructive for so many people. But I'm glad that you were able to do that and still, find a way to honor yourself and also honor her.
Well, yeah, what's wild is one of my my sister's watching.
Yeah, I see.
One of my many side gigs while we still had my grandmother was being her caregiver. And it's weird. I've told this story to the trainees at Fallout, but like her passing led me to a job that ultimately led me to opening up Fallout. So in a weird way, every time there's training, every time there's a show, every time I'm putting one of the kids over, it is, honoring and paying respect to my grandmother. She was one, old school Puerto Rican woman, nosy, told you about yourself, didn't care what was coming out of her mouth, but she loved unconditionally and always took care of everybody. And that's what we do here. If I got to tell you about yourself, I'm gonna do it. I might not be as, hurtful with my tongue as she has been, but yeah, like the taking care of and trying to, better the lives of people is something that she excelled at. And that's all I try to do with the trainees at Fallout, with the athletes at Battle Club Pro. So yeah, like Fallout wouldn't be a thing if we still had her. And it's just so weird. Like it had to take the most painful and destructive thing in my life to happen. And in turn, probably the most fulfilling thing I'll ever do with my life in opening the Fallout came to fruition. So it's weird how those things work out like that.
Yeah, it is weird, but all of it comes from love, and it's just, I find that some of the best ways to honor the people that you haven't, in my mind, I say, you haven't lost them. I feel like the best way to honor the people in your life who have gone to the next level is to just continue to live the way that they
would have want you to have lived and be who they raised you to be, in an expanded way. So it's really clear that that's happened. And, you know, much love and respect to your granny, because you're awesome, and I'm sure she's awesome too.
Oh yeah. So she always yelled at me about, you know, when am I gonna have kids? And it's like now I have kids.
All the elders, they love to come at you in your life like, when are you gonna have kids? When are you gonna look? Wait a minute, let me get myself together first. But yeah, I get it. So I totally get it. I get it 100%. So to sort of move a little bit out of this, and go to sort of like a fun thing, like what are some of your hobbies? Like what do you do outside of wrestling?
Oh man, I don't do much. You know, I work 2 shoot jobs, and then running Battle Club, and then running Fallout. There's not really much to do in terms of hobby. Things I love to do. I love listening to true crime podcasts. When I have time to relax, I like, you know, watching, you know, movies, TV shows. When I have time, I call him my little tank. My nephew, my buddies, my best friend. I love him to death. Try to go to the movies with him, do something with him. He's not a little ball of joy. He's a boulder of joy. But yeah, anytime I could hang around with my little tank Eastside, that's great. Anytime I could do anything with the trainees at Fallout, whether it's going to like a viewing party with Jobber Tears at Legends, or, you know, going to their shows and you know, supporting them, you know, in person. It's weird, and I don't have much time, but like whatever time I do have, I try my best to spend with people who are going to keep bringing a smile to my face. So like when I see, you know, KJ Mack or Cuzzo or, you know, Gamble doing their thing at different companies, it's like, yes, I'm happy right now. When I have my nephew beating on me and telling me, you know, hey, you got to watch this. Did you know, Venom was created in this year? And it's just like, I didn't know that, little man. That's always great, you know. And it's easy when you don't have a lot of it, and you get to decide what you're going to do with it, whether it's bum out all day or have fun with whoever. I feel like it's helped me enjoy it more, and I crave it more, and I'm really trying my best to do better about getting my own free time. But like, yeah, those little hobbies I don't really have. Video games was one of them. I play this one baseball game on my phone religiously because it's on my phone, so I can play that. I'm a Mets fan. I'm a Knicks fan. I'm a Ravens and Jet fan. A lot of people will say I'm phony because I have 2 football teams, but there's a big, long reason behind that I'm not going to get into. But man, just try to smile and sleep as much as I can when I have free time.
Yeah, like you got a lot going on. Yeah, but you know, at least you know you're surrounded by people, you know, who truly care about you, that you can feed into in the moments where you're not working and not working on wrestling and stuff like that. So that's always good. And then you have your ways of decompressing. So that's really good. Like
I was telling my God, who was I talking to? I think I was talking to one of my partners at Fallout. I'm pretty sure it's the gift god Hokai. I was telling him how one time Cosmic had a show in Connecticut and Spice had gone with me. So I ended up taking Spice and Cosmic to see my mom, because like my mom was literally 15 minutes away. I wouldn't be breathing right now if I was 15 minutes away and didn't see her. Mm-hmm. And it was just this moment where Cosmic is arguing with my mom about like Spanish music, and I'm just like, holy crap, my 2 worlds are colliding. I don't know how to deal with this right now. But it was a great moment. And then like to see Cosmic and Spice like laughing at me because they're seeing young pictures of me. It was dope. But yeah, I have a lot going on, but at this moment, I probably wouldn't trade.
I can tell. Yeah. I can tell that you wouldn't trade it, and that's a good thing. Like, I love that. So, how exactly do you feel about the state of wrestling, and what's good about it, and what can be improved upon it, in your opinion?
Um, one thing one thing I'll touch on that I really genuinely just don't like about indie wrestling is when workers go unappreciated, and by unappreciated I mean like they're not compensated for their talents, or they're not, given an opportunity to showcase what it is they can do. I won't say where, but we have several people who train at Fallout, and I just stare at them and I'm like, how is it that X, Y, and Z fumbled this talent? Like, I see the world in them. So I think that's my biggest takeaway when it comes to indie wrestling right now. Just workers being, unappreciated, underutilized, abused in some way, shape, or form. And talking about like abuse, like just etiquette, from other workers, promoters, sponsors, like, these men and women, they're not your plaything. You shouldn't be, trying anything with them. Like, respect them. They're human. What I can say I love about wrestling, again, I'm speaking generally when I speak about wrestling now, it's generally independent wrestling. I would say what I love now is that it seems to be slow, but like, in the South and in major cities, it's starting to become more normal to have more than one woman on the card, more than one woman's match on the card, more than one person of color on the card. Like, it's starting to shift to what is real life for most of the populace in major cities. You still, obviously, because middle America is like 90% Caucasian, you're still going to have those shows where it's 10 matches, 9 of them all look like a 19-year-old Hulk Hogan versus a 19-year-old Hulk Hogan, and then you'll get one token match, whether it's a women's match or person of color, that's what I hate the most about wrestling, because I don't think it's real life. But seeing the change is what I think is best about wrestling, and I feel like it's something the indies started doing, and I say it all the time, Impact never gets the credit they deserve. I feel like they book women and people of color better than anybody over the last 10 to 15 years. They don't get credit for it. But when you can put people like Kenny King, who was never seen as anything more than a tag specialist in ROH, at the top, in main event slots at Impact, it's like, oh, you see what they've done with Lashley, with LAX and all its incarnations. Like, Impact's always done, all the stuff they do in India, and like, they're really great at promoting their women, promoting their people of color. So like, Impact, along with the independent wrestling scene, has kind of finally translated to real mainstream wrestling, like the bigger, larger companies, specifically the WWE. So you had that year where like Big E was champ, Lashley was champ, Belair was champ, Street Prop, like, it's like, hey, this is real fucking life. Finally, thank you. It is a business and there's shareholders or whatever the case may be, but it's like, it's great to see the turn start to happen, because once it starts to happen, it doesn't normally go back. It's going to continue progressing, and I'm really grateful for that. In terms, so that's the negative and the positive, kind of in line with each other, just on different spectrums. Like, yeah, those are my biggest poo-poo and biggest hurrah for wrestling right now.
Yeah, and then I can even speak to it being in the South, because in Alabama, like, number one, the thing that's happening the most now that I see is that there's so many different wrestling promotions in Alabama that's spurting around, even in Birmingham, where you see more shows and it's actually becoming more and more accepted. as opposed to it just being something that you can just make fun of or just be like, oh, why is that happening? No, it's actually being more accepted now. Because I think for the first time this year, our anime convention, Comic-Con, actually had a wrestling event within their convention.
Awesome.
And that was amazing. Like, it was so cool to actually sit there, because I had my table set up in there and everything for my podcast, but to go downstairs and see a wrestling match and see people who had never watched wrestling before be into it was just like the coolest thing ever. So, and then also in terms of women and people of color, like the promotion that I commentate for, which is on hiatus right now, the Belladonna division, like that's all female. And it's just like, and being a part of that, you know, as my first official wrestling job was just the most incredible thing for me, because I'm just like, you know, I'm in a locker room full of all of these independent stars, some I've heard of, some I haven't heard of, and we're back here working together and showing this show to people who actually want to see it. And I feel like the biggest misconception is the fact that people feel like, oh, well, don't nobody want to see women's wrestling. That's not true, because all of our shows have sold out. And I'm just like, so I'm sitting here like, no, people want to see this stuff. You just have to, you know, put all of your stuff aside and put all of your power behind it, because people want to see it. There's an audience for it if you put it out there.
Right.
So,
absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Speaking of Birmingham and the Alabama area, Trevor Eon is on the show this Saturday in Brooklyn. And before that, he's going to be in the show in Alabama.
Wow, that's so great.
Make sure you go see Trevor Eon in Alabama. I don't have all the details, but he does. No, but you're absolutely right, and that's a thing. It's what I love to see. They're both watching right now, and I don't. This is not to put them over. It's just the damn truth. Like, I've never seen any women. I've never seen. I grew up with strong women. My mom, my second oldest sister, and my grandmother all raised children with little to no help, aside from leaning on each other. So when people like Tasha Steeles and Big Swole are being the face and representatives of Battle Club, it warms my heart, because it's like I see these people and they represent exactly what it is I love about life, and they're doing it in wrestling. And yeah, I was talking to Swole earlier today, and I told her, like, every time you
Joakim? Joakim?
There you go. Was that me or you?
I don't know. I think it's me. My internet. I'm sorry. It's back together now. But go ahead with what you were saying.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. Is it me? Oh no.
There you go.
Okay, it's me. Oh God. Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, it's still clear on my end. I can hear you, and now you're blurry. Oh, this is awkward. Okay. Why is this happening right now? Oh, well, guys, hopefully we'll be back. I don't know what's happening.
Hello?
Yeah.
There you go. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, we're good. It's okay. No, I think it was me. I don't know what's going on.
No, I think the Wi-Fi on my end blanked out. What was the last thing you heard before I got cut off?
Yeah, Miss Anne Marie is saying that it's better now. Okay, yeah. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. But you were saying you were talking to Swole earlier.
About... I was talking to Swole earlier, and how, you know, every time she steps into the ring, she breaks that stereotype that women can't draw, that black women can't draw, that nobody wants to see women's wrestling, because it's not true. It's not true. I've coached middle school and high school basketball, both men and women, and every time I tell the male and females, to study the game, I tell them to watch the WNBA. Like, you're going to see the game played the right way because the women are going to stick to fundamentals. It's not going to be about being flashy. It's about getting the job done. And it's something that I've always witnessed. I've always seen my mom, my grandmother, my sister say, hey, this needs to get done. And they figure out a way to do it. Right. So it's you can look at a Battle Club show and see it's reflective of the way I book. Like, I'm going to put women in position to showcase that they can draw, they can work, they can sell, they can promote, they can put help a show sell out. Like, so yeah, every time I hear that nonsense, or I see, like I said earlier, a show with 10 matches, 9 of them are literally the same person in different tights against the same person in different tights, and then you get that one token match. It's like, that shouldn't be that way, because these women can go. They can definitely go. In some cases, they infinitely better than some of the men who constantly get booked. And that's a turning of the chapter. That's a change in the game that I'm loving, and I hope it continues. I've looked at a lot of that Belladonna stuff, and it's great. And it's always wonderful to see an all women's promotion thrive, whether it's the Belladonna division, like you said, a women's wrestling army, Women's Wrestling Revolution, CCW, Superheroes. Yeah, Harlow is on there. I believe, I don't know if it's out of the bag, but someone who's been recently training at Fallout is currently a new signee there. You look at Impact, what Tasha Steele has done. Jordan Grace is the first ever Battle Club Pro Icons champion. She's an Impact champion. She was the digital media champion. Like, you see these things, and we just had Mia Yim back, not for Jobber Slam. Mia Yim has done so many great things, whether it's in the E, whether it's in Impact. Like, it's there. If people are choosing to ignore it, that's on them. That's them being willfully ignorant. If you honestly believe that a woman can't step into a ring and in wrestling hang with a man, then you're not watching the current product anywhere. You're not really paying attention.
Right. Definitely, 100%. I feel that way also. So I'm just really glad that, we are pushing towards that change and actually working in it as well. Because I know something that I am, passionate about is not only just seeing women athletes, but also women in the intellectual space, because you hardly, if ever, see women on commentary on mainstream shows. And it's just like, that needs to change, because of course we do have AJ Mendez, who was on WoW. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing, it's just like, she's commentating, and then no shade to them, she's commentating with Stephen Dickey and also David McLean, who started Glow Wrestling, but then is also a producer for WoW. And it's just like, on AEW you have your all male table, and then it's just like on WWE you have your all male table, and even on Impact you have your all male table, and only occasionally do you bring the female athletes on to commentate, but you don't. But outside of that, it's just like, it's all an all male thing. And I'm just like, y'all do know that women, have knowledge about this stuff, right? And have been watching it, and embracing all of the information about it for years. But for the life of me, it's just like, y'all are not putting these women on the table. And it's just like, where are they at? Like, we're more than just mediators for the men who know all about it. Like, we know all about it too, and can carry conversations about wrestling just as well, if not any better than any man. So that's something that I want to see more of, in terms of that.
It should, when you talk about mainstream wrestling, you have minds like Maria Kanellis, like a Gail Kim, like Natty Hart. Like, you have all these unbelievably influential minds. Why not utilize their ability to speak about something they've done forever, something they know inside and out? It's always weird. Like, if I knew I had someone like that at my disposal, and I don't have anything for them in the ring, it only makes sense to put them somewhere else and take advantage of those talents. And you're right, it baffles my mind. I remember when they put Renee on the commentary team, I was just like, finally!
I was thrilled.
Yeah, like, and then whatever happened, she departed from the company, or whatever the case may be. why haven't they replaced her? Haven't they found somewhere else? Like, I recently watched, and there was this guy on commentary. It's like, who's that? I don't know who that is. But it's just like, you have a roster full of women who are absolutely the best in the world. That's why they are where they are. Why not have that voice? You know, I mean, at least for me, maybe this is a bit biased. It's a lot more pleasant to hear someone with a nice voice speak about something I love than hear someone talk about, like, who sounds like me. It's like, well, I sound like me, and when I'm doing wrestling stuff, that's the only time I really want to hear it. You know?
Mm-hmm. So yeah. So hopefully at some point, you know, more of that can happen, and we can have more change when it comes to that. And you never know, maybe they'll get a woman or two or three or four or something like that. You just never know. Never know.
It's weird. Like, if I had a semblance of a budget the way that E has, or AEW, or even Impact, or, you know, along those lines,
mm-hmm.
and I could put on multiple products at once, I don't understand why no one has put on an all women's product. You have a crazy roster, you have the time slot, you have the money. Why are you not doing this? Why is it that you're relegating your women to wrestle 3, 4, 5-minute matches on a card that has 15 matches when you could just have a time slot for them to act? To me, it doesn't make any sense. And we know they draw. We know they sell. It's not like you're going to be, your overhead isn't going to increase. So why are you not doing that? Why? It makes no sense. Now, if next week all of a sudden AEW is like, hey, Dark Evolutions are going to be all women's show, they stole it. No, I'm kidding. But you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I've done all women's shows and they rock. Why isn't this something that's only, like, I love that WoW Superheroes now has the CBS deal. That's great. You know, being able to say, hey, look, former Icons champions on Channel 2 in New York, which is like one of the channels. It's crazy. Or their streaming service. But it's just like, why isn't that done with mainstream wrestling? You know, we did we have? We have what was that women's all women's show? That one all women's show they did was Evolution.
That was Evolution, yeah. And then NWA did Empower.
Right.
Because I actually went to that one, and that one was amazing.
Yeah, but like, you have these one-offs. Why?
Right.
Why? If independent promotions like myself can do at least one all-women show a year, why can't you do a constant? It just doesn't make any sense. And it's like, you have, looking at it from a marketing standpoint, if you have Total Divas as a reality show, why would you not take everything that's going on there and then put it in a show where they're actually wrestling so they can feed off of each other? It's just, you're just missing revenue now for no reason other than willful ignorance.
Yeah, and then they did do that, but then even when they did do that, with Total Divas, when it was on and it was prevalent, they would only still have the women out there for so little minutes. 2, 3, 4, 5-minute segments. Yeah, yeah, they really didn't mean anything. But it's like, I feel like now with something like Total Divas feeding into the show, it would be something way more substantial. Like, it would be lit. I would love it. But
100%.
Yeah, so it's clear that we both agree on representation on all fronts, and I love it. So you have a show coming up Saturday, and yes. I'm so excited, you know, whenever you guys have shows, and just to hear about it, and just to even support it in any way I can, even though I know I'm far, but still, I still love it. You have Trial by Combat happening this Saturday.
Yes.
So what can people expect from this show, considering it's also the 6th anniversary show too? So how will you be celebrating that, you know, with this show, and what type of stuff are you going to have popping off here?
You know, 6 years ago, this thing all came to a head in a small venue called the Point CDC in the Bronx, started by Carlos. I was his right-hand man at that point. Now, as we celebrate 6 years, last year when we formally inducted Carlos into the Battle Club Hall of Fame, the first ever inductee. This year, what I can say is it's going to be more about the future. It's going to be about showcasing the people I believe in, the trainees at the Fallout, the talent that has been going so hard for me this year. It's talent like, Steve Pena and Mike Law and Swole and Bonesaw, Willow Nightingale, Main Event, Jordy Lee, Cosmic, Rembrandt. It's going to be about turning that corner and the kids taking the forefront. It's going to be about us taking that next step, getting bigger, having more of a movement, getting more traction, having more of an audience outside of the tri-state area. Year 6 for us is going to be a turning point that leads to bigger and better things for all involved.
Yeah, that sounds epic. I only wish it were I only wish it was next weekend instead of this weekend. Because it's like, I'll actually be in town next weekend. And it's just like...
But that's the thing. If it was next weekend, how many people would actually come if everyone's going to Comic-Con?
People would have still came.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have been the same. But no, that's speak it into existence. Maybe one day, we could be part of Comic-Con as a company. Like, that'd be amazing.
Woo! Cool.
Yeah, you put me in touch with the right people. Let's do it. Let's do it next year.
Yeah, that would be insane.
Yeah, this year is, like I said, it's a turning point for bigger and better things going forward. Continuing the mission, continuing, to just give everything we can, showcasing outside talent. Like I said, Trevor Eon coming from the Atlanta area. Yaya, got a franchise title shot. He's coming from the Carolinas. Mysterious Q representing, the Texas area. Like, it's about broadening broadening what we do as a company, getting over that hump, brand new, not brand new, but like that feeling that I was like, oh man, this is really starting to invade other places. I want it to be, more than a tri-state product. I want it to be a national product. I want it to be a worldwide product. Same for Fallout, this 6-year anniversary is step one into, global domination, hopefully.
Yes, that's always the goal, is to take over the world. We're like Pinky in the Brain. I love it.
There you go.
Oh my god, that's so crazy. Oh, I'm old. But anyway, aside from the fact that I'm old, what would you say? Well, no, I got two more questions. Who would you say are your top 5 wrestlers of all time, male, female, or non-binary?
Whew. Well, I don't hide who my all-time favorite is, and even though he's in hot water right now, or people are frowning upon him, I don't shy away from it. CM Punk's he's my all-time favorite. I don't know. Like I said, I was scrolling through cable television. He was in a tag team match with Julio De Niro, and I was just like, there's something about this guy. And from that point on, he's just been my guy. It's so hard because, like, how do you not say Eddie? How do you not say Owen? I would say living right now, and I'll keep it to mainstream so that I don't offend anybody that's on the indies that I might use. But I would say Punk is still number one. I don't know if it's a hot take because I started seeing it online now. I think AJ Styles is the greatest wrestler ever. CM Punk can be my favorite, but it's hard to deny when the man can not only dominate everywhere he goes, but has classics with whoever he's in the ring with. The argument, everyone's like, oh, it's Shawn Michaels or it's Ric Flair. It's like, I'm sorry. I would take AJ Styles over both of them. it could be blasphemy. Oh well, that's my opinion. So I would say Punk, Styles. Unfortunately, right now, at the moment, right now, he's injured. But I have been on a crusade for everyone to believe that Santana is probably the best wrestler on that roster, and he's not getting his just due. So when he comes back, I know he's going to be a house on fire, and everyone's going to see how great that man is. I don't want to. God, it's so hard. It's so hard because it's like now that the wheels are turning, I have a list of women.
Yeah.
Right. So you know what? For men, I would say Styles, Punk, Santana. Man, love Kevin Owens.
Mm-hmm.
He's an ass-kicking fat kid. That's what I am.
Yes.
Yeah, KO and probably Anthony Bowens.
Okay.
Anthony Bowens, newly crowned tag team champion Anthony Bowens. If we're gonna go women mainstream, like how do you ever not give someone like Bianca Belair her props? Naomi, Sasha Banks, like oh god, Mia Yim, Tasha Steelz. That's for women. That's the list for women right now, currently in mainstream wrestling, and for men currently in mainstream wrestling. Those 5 each. It's just so hard to pick because it's like
it is.
If I wanted a great TV match, I'd have like Bowens or a Styles. But it's like if I wanted a great match on my card, I would have a Santana or a Steele. So it's like, and it's what I've done. But for talent on TV, I would go those 5 in each category.
Yeah, those are pretty solid answers. Like, it's a hard question. I know it is. It's hard for a lot of people. It's okay. It's okay. I remember the first time somebody asked me that, I was just like, excuse me, what? I think it was Janelle. She asked me that question. I was like, girl, this is hard.
Right. My list of wrestlers that have, like you put it, moved on to the next level, I think it's a bit more interesting. So it's like it's Eddie because I cried when he beat Brock. To watch a man of Latin heritage climb the mountain that other companies had said no, that's not where you belong. That was amazing. I loved Owen Hart. A lot of people think Bret's the greatest of all time. I've always preferred Owen's matches because he had that flair, he had that high fly ability. He was different, and he was enough like his brother that you could see he's great, and he was different enough from his brother that you could see he's great in a different way.
Yeah.
I've always been a huge mark for Mike Awesome. The man can powerbomb you from any position. That's just like whoa. Macho Man, like I said, I think the earliest match I could remember watching, I think, was him and Tito Santana in the Boston Garden. That was on tape. That was on VHS for you kids that don't know what that is. It's a box and there's actual, there's actual film in there. There's so many. But yeah, those 4 when it comes to wrestlers who have gone to the next level, I think off the top of my head, I always tend to give them their props.
Yeah, all solid answers. I respect it. I respect it a lot. So my last question for you is, what do you believe the future holds for you, Joakim?
Selfishly, I want to be the name that comes up when, if you do your research and you talk territories, Vincent J. McMahon was the Northeast Territory guy. that's kind of where I for independent wrestling, it was like, oh, when you think New York independent wrestling, it's like my name, selfishly, my name's the one that pops up. What I genuinely want is that when the name does come up, it's like, well, he was a proponent of change. He helped make it so women main eventing was a normal thing. He helped make it so that people of color being predominantly booked on cards all across America was a normal thing. So that it gets to a point where you don't even bring it up. And you have those wrestling historians that go, hey, 25, 30, 35, 40 years ago, this would have been taboo. This was not the norm. You didn't have these kind of matches. You didn't feature these kinds of stars. The immediate future, I would like to continue pumping out more content for us to have on Title Match Wrestling, more content for Battle Club itself to have on its own, to continue to give opportunities. Just like, when I asked you to do commentary with me, I'd love to have you back at some point. Change, as corny as it sounds, it was Barack Obama's slogan, but like, I want the future to hold change for the better. In my head, 12 months, maybe 5 shows next year. In my head, making it so that we do shows out of state, so that our audience grows bigger and stronger. In my head, maybe not the immediate future, but within the next 5 years, opening multiple Fallout locations so that our mission is spread throughout the country. I had a conversation a few months ago, but it came to the realization in the conversation that, when I was growing up, you had karate and boxing gyms everywhere, and it's not really existent anymore. You had a place for kids. If you wanted them off the streets so they wouldn't get into trouble, they'd go learn boxing, they'd go play basketball. Like, I feel like places like the Y aren't really what they were before, even though they have like state-of-the-art technology and facilities now. I don't feel like kids are rushing to go there. So if I could provide a safe place for, our people to go, so they're not on the street doing anything dumb, they can, get some discipline, some structure, get their minds in the right place. Like, if we could be able to provide that with my partners at Battle Club, Janelle and Ray, with my partners at Fallout, Paul and Elliot, like, if we could provide those things going forward throughout the world, that would be amazing. That'd be, I'd be giving back. It'd be the place that I didn't have growing up. For me, I'd go to the basketball court, I'd play handball, I'd play in the jungle gym, but it wasn't necessarily safe. It wasn't structured. But if we can get an 18-year-old fresh out of high school, doesn't really know what he wants to do with his life, has a dream, has a passion, we can provide a place for him like that. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
That's beautiful. And it can be done. And you have the heart and you have the work ethic. So I believe it'll be done. So, Joakim, thank you so much for coming on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast.
For a long time.
Wait, what?
I wanted to do your podcast for a while.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad. I love it when people say that, because it makes me feel like, oh my God, people actually want to come. Are you serious? But yeah,
No, it's like, I tell. I've said it to Jobberteers multiple times, and that's why we work, hand in hand with them, because they represent what, in terms of podcasting and journalism and reporting, like, they represent that change that I want to see. True Heel Heat, Go for the Pin, Council of Commentary, those wrestling girls. Like, you guys you're awesome, and you're what I know as real life. Like, when you're in major cities, or when you're in inner cities, or urban areas, you know what you get, and it's refreshing to be able to see that you can see it in a positive light on a streaming device, on a television, on a tablet, on a laptop. Just like, hey, these people look like me, and they're not doing dumb things. They're not out there, destroying other people's lives or families or their own lives or families. So huge props to you, and I mean that. Like, this is what I wanted for a while, and I always kind of like, I didn't want to reach out because it's like, well, obviously her thing is to put the spotlight on women, and that's fine, that's great, it's what I love to see. But like again, selfishly, it's like what I really wanted to do was be on it. So I'm happy that I was able to knock this off the bucket list.
Yeah, I'm glad I was too. I try to get everybody, but it just seems like mostly a lot of women do come on the show, but it's for everyone. So just like wrestling is for everyone, the Hardy Wrestling Podcast is for everyone. So just tell everybody where they can find you and follow you and what you've got going on, because of course you've got stuff going on, so you can say that right now.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Joakim Morales, my real name. I have that's one of the areas I have my life together. Like, you don't have to go searching. There's not 17,000 different digits in my username. It's my full name. At Battle Club Pro, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Come out, Brooklyn, 5:00 Saturday, 6-year anniversary, Trial by Combat. All the stars and champions of Battle Club. It's going to be an amazing show. You're going to get a wide array of talent from all over the world. You're going to get talent that's featured on TV, talent that's had TV moments. It's when I have these shows, when we do these shows as a family, what I try my best is for it to feel welcoming. Like, you're going to grandma's house on a Sunday for that big meal. You're just going to be embraced with love. You're going to be welcomed. You're going to be accepted. If you were looking for a great time for some great wrestling, you're in the New York, New Jersey area, like, come out. I try not to brag, but I put our show up against anybody else's when it comes to fun factor, when it comes to being inclusive, when it comes to being, a good time. So yeah, you can, brown paper tickets. If you search Battle Club, tickets will pop up. If you want to support, if you want to send messages, lately I've been getting slammed, and it always feels like it's right when show week is happening, slammed with inquiries about having, how to get on and, what the process is. And truth be told, it's just like when I have a moment to study and look at things, that's when I, do my best. But it's just, show week is never it. And that's usually when you get the most inquiries. But yeah, that's if you're in the tri-state and you want to train, Fallout Shelter, we have classes Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Coaches we have, Masha Slamovich, who's dominating Impact, is one of our coaches. Mike Law, Steve Pena, Jorge Santi. We've had drop-ins from people who are training on TV. We've had seminars. Swole had taught a lesson one time. There's something where in the Battle Club Productions tree, there's something for everybody in some way, shape, or form. Hopefully we can get this series thing on YouTube up and running soon. There's a lot coming, and the kids are pushing me to be better. And
once upon a time in a faraway land, there was a girl who wanted to talk about wrestling but didn't necessarily know how to do it in a healthy way. But then one day she got a visit from an amazing fairy godmother who told her, what it sounds like you need to do is start a wrestling podcast. But the girl was like, I don't know how to start one, and I don't know if anybody will listen to me. But the godmother said, well, guess what? You got to use this app called Anchor that you can download to your phone. She went on to say, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. So, of course, you're going to have to get a computer and a microphone, maybe, but let's just start with your phone. When hosting Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, which you listen to music on, Apple Podcasts, and more. It has everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, you ain't got to pay for it. It is absolutely free, and I know you like it when stuff is free. So, of course, the fairy godmother grabbed the lady by the face, the woman by the face, and told her to download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. and get your thoughts out there because the world is ready to hear you. So here again, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started and tell your story today. All right, so I just want to thank Joakim Morales for coming on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. Of course, follow him and support Battle Club Pro and the Fallout Shelter and all of the things that they've got going on throughout the year, of course, and also continue to support the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. Follow me on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast and on Twitter at Hardy Wrestle Pod, and continue to listen to the show on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and everywhere you get your podcast, you can find it. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Hardy Wrestling Podcast, where you can catch all of the audio versions of all these episodes and the interviews along with smaller clips of other things that I've done on the channel as well. And just continue to support the show. I hope you've enjoyed all of these episodes, and I believe this will serve as the season finale for season 4 of The Hardy Wrestling Podcast, simply because of the fact that this season started during a really rough period of my life, where I was dealing with a lot, but I was able to still find ways to persevere and give you guys the best content that I possibly could. And now, I guess, with 26 episodes for this season 4, I'm just really grateful to have been able to continue to do this as much as I have. But for now, I'm going to chill out and then find out how to move forward with season 5 and continue to give you guys the best wrestling content I know how to give. Of course, I will be posting pictures from my time at New York Comic Con, and also if I do a little bit of extra things as well involving wrestling in New York next weekend, and just continue to just be my best self as I grow in wrestling and also with women's wrestling talk as well. So thank you for all of your support and love since February of 2020 for this show, and I hope to continue this show and everything else that I've got going on and continue to grow in wrestling as a personality as well. So I hope you guys are remaining as well as you possibly can and are taking care of yourselves with the change of the seasons and with the weather acting all crazy and stuff, and also with people dealing with loss. I hope that you are coping in the most healthiest of ways when it comes to that, and know that the love that you and that person or those people had will always remain true, even though that person isn't physically here with you anymore. I hope that you are living a life that that person would be proud of in any way, shape, or form. Regardless, I just hope that through it all, you are persevering and being your best self. So in the meantime, thank you for listening to the Hardy Wrestling Podcast with your girl, Stephanie Hardy. And even though it's not in this episode or in the last few, the theme music is performed by Josiah Williams, aka Mr. Wrestle and Flow. Until next time, bye y'all.